Hey everyone, and welcome. So today we're tearing the lid off a pretty shocking reality in the publishing world. It's an industry built entirely on dreams and creativity, but man, there is a seriously dark underbelly lurking just beneath the surface. We're going to look at how scammers are out there actively treating aspiring authors like fat sheep just waiting to be slaughtered. It's a brutal phrase, I know, but as you'll see throughout this explainer, it is painfully accurate. I gotta ask you directly, why are aspiring authors treated like fat sheep? Think about it for a second. Writers pour their absolute hearts, their souls, and just countless hours into their manuscripts, right? They had this deep, almost desperate desire to see their work published and read. And that hope, that profound dream of becoming a recognized author, it actually makes them incredibly vulnerable. The predators in the publishing industry, they know this. They've literally weaponized that hope, turning it into a massive, highly lucrative scamming machine. Okay, let's dive right into this and break down the exact anatomy of these scams. First up, writers as fat sheep. Second, the fake Dan Brown lure. Third, fake agencies' sky-high traps. Fourth, hardcore scam counterattacks. And finally, we'll wrap up with the ultimate author anti-scam guide. Let's start with section 1. Writers as fat sheep, the target. So who exactly are these scammers going after? Mostly it's self-published, inexperienced, and really hopeful writers. These folks are basically cash cows for fake marketing and publishing services because, well, they're super eager for visibility, but they often just don't know the standard business practices of traditional publishing. To give you an idea of the scale we're talking about here, just look at this number, $2,200. Scammers are demanding just absolutely outrageous upfront fees. Like some fake agents will ask for $2,200 just to write a quote-unquote professionally crafted query letter. I actually started digging super deeply into these types of scams, specifically groups operating under names like the Dan Brown Academy, because of a really good friend of mine. She recently published a book, right? And her so-called publisher offered to build her a website and do some marketing. They ended up charging her over $10,000 in hosting fees for what they called a permanent website. But wait, it gets worse. Just recently, they started chasing her down, aggressively demanding another $4,500 for a 7-year domain renewal. They claimed her domain was expiring immediately. So I looked it up for her. And guess what? Not only was it not expiring for at least another half a year, but the domain was registered at GoDaddy. It was completely unrelated to this publisher. A standard domain renewal only costs, $10 to $20 a year? It absolutely does not require thousands of dollars. This right here is exactly the kind of financial trap we are talking about. Which brings us perfectly to section 2, the fake Dan Brown lore, the bait. Scammers frequently hijack the names of famous celebrity authors, think Dan Brown, Donna Tartt, or Kristen Hanna, just to build false trust with their targets. They shoot out these unsolicited emails pretending to be literary giants, claiming they've read the target's book and just really want to help them out. And this perfectly maps out the psychological timeline they use. It almost always follows this exact pattern. Days 1 and 2, initial flattery. They rave about your brilliant writing. Days 3 and 4, fake camaraderie, bonding over the loneliness of the writing journey. Then days 5 and 6, the pivot. They subtly recommend a private marketer or a private agent who supposedly took their own career to the next level. And finally, day 7 and beyond, the inevitable cash grab, where that fake marketer suddenly asks for thousands of dollars. Take a look at this. This is an actual quote from a super polite, very likely AI-generated email sent by a fake Dan Brown to the best-selling author Lee Goldberg. Fake Dan says, dripping with fake warmth, I found an agent who truly understood how to guide me. I can connect you with that same agent. Notice how supportive that sounds? It's perfectly designed to make the aspiring author feel like they're being welcomed into this exclusive, elite circle of successful writers. But let's contrast that glittering promise with the harsh reality. On one side, fake Dan Brown is promising VIP access to his exclusive private agent named Alma Stee, who supposedly works quietly behind the scenes making bestsellers. On the other side, the reality. Alma Stee is literally just a scammer with a Gmail address, operating out of a boiler room somewhere, trying to steal thousands of dollars for absolutely zero real services. Moving right along to section 3. Fake agencies' sky-high traps, the illusion. Because it's not just fake celebrity authors, guys, it's also fake literary agencies. Operations with super official-sounding names like New Age Literary or Stellar Literary California. They prey on writers over the phone, hiding behind these impressive names and fake Beverly Hills addresses. And these fake agencies, They charge sky-high fees for things that are either completely free or entirely worthless. Just look at the comparison here. They will charge you $799 for paperback formatting. Amazon KDP literally does that for free. They'll charge $1,200 to just place your book on a table at some random book fair, which gets you absolutely zero return on investment. And, like we mentioned earlier, $2,200 for a query letter, which you should definitely be writing yourself for $0. So Lee Goldberg actually recorded a phone call with one of these scammers from Stellar Literary California. The scammer claimed to be this hotshot business consultant in California who gets people literary agents, but then, in the exact same breath, offered a self-publishing radio offer for $799. When Goldberg pressed the guy on where exactly in California he was located, the scammer just completely bumbled it. He claimed he was in San Pedro, but couldn't even explain what part of the state San Pedro was in. The whole illusion just completely fell apart. All right, now for the really fun part. Section 4, Hardcore Scam Counterattacks, the Takedown. Let's look at how Lee Goldberg mercilessly, and I mean hilariously, turned the tables on these guys. Since Goldberg is a seasoned, traditionally published author, he spots these frauds from a mile away. But instead of just deleting the emails, he actually engages with them. He wastes their time and completely exposes their absurdities. For example, a scammer pretending to be the famous author Kristen Hanna reached out to Goldberg, praising his work. Goldberg replied with a link to a completely fabricated, highly inappropriate book he claimed to have written. And how did the scammer respond? With polite, AI-generated praise. Fake Kristen actually wrote back, "The emotional throughline, love existing outside accepted boundaries, comes through strongly." And what was that fake book actually about? Well, Goldberg told fake Kristen, "What inspired me is that I've always wanted to see a woman have sex with a dinosaur. So I decided to monetize my fantasy." I mean, the sheer absurdity here is just incredible. And the crazy thing? The scammers completely ignored this totally unhinged response. They just kept trying to pivot the conversation right back to selling them their fake marketing services. They literally do not care what you write. They only care about getting paid. Another hilarious tactic Goldberg uses involves an imposter pretending to be the author Mary Kubica. Goldberg played right along, acting like they were former lovers, and actually asked for nudes. When fake Mary Kubica pivoted and asked for his phone number, Goldberg gladly obliged. He gave her the direct phone number for the FBI's field office in Los Angeles. Now, very occasionally, a scammer actually realizes they've been caught and decides to play along. Goldberg engaged a scammer pretending to be the Scottish author Gail Honeyman. When Goldberg accused Gail of sending him hot texts that suddenly stopped, he asked if her husband had caught on. The scammer, realizing the jig was totally up, hilariously pivoted on the spot, replying, "I was hired by Gail's husband to find out if she's cheating on him. You're going down." Honestly, Goldberg actually gave the scammer credit for a pretty clever, improvised response there. Okay, bringing it back down to earth for Section 5, Ultimate Author Anti-Scam Guide, The Shield. Because as funny as Goldberg's trolling is, the underlying threat to your hard-earned money is very, very real. We want to make absolutely sure that you or any aspiring writers you might know are protected. So let's look at the ultimate anti-scam guide based on the industry realities we've just uncovered. Here are the major red flags you need to memorize right now. Legitimate industry professionals simply do not operate this way. If an agent asks you to pay upfront for representation, that's a scam. If you are asked to pay to be a guest on a TV show or a podcast, scam. If you're submitting to a literary award with a city name that charges a hefty entry fee, almost certainly a scam. Do not pay trade publications for book reviews, and absolutely, under no circumstances, pay someone to create a pitch deck just because a fake movie studio called you out of the blue. So, if you remember absolutely nothing else from this explainer today, please memorize the golden rule of publishing. Ready? Money flows to the author, not from the author. Let me repeat that. Money flows to the author. Legitimate agents make their money by taking a 10 to 15% commission on the sale of your work. Traditional publishers pay you in advance and they pay you royalties. You should never, ever be handing over thousands of dollars just to open the doors of the publishing industry. I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. Will you let scammers monetize your literary dreams, or will you protect your work? Your stories have real value. Your creativity has value. Don't let a predatory industry treat you like a fat sheep. Stay vigilant, keep focused on your craft, and always remember the golden rule. Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep writing.